On today's episode of the Cryptoverse, we'll check in on the progress of Segwit lock-in and the MtGox case has been cracked wide open thanks to some new reports coming out from previously underground investigations. So all of that coming up on today's edition of the Cryptoverse, so stay tuned. So you're paranoid about the security of your cryptocurrency, and you want to buy a hardware wallet so you can keep your money safe. But which hardware wallet should you buy? Well, the Crypto Hardware Wallet Superstore has written a free buyer's guide especially for you. Check it out today by clicking on the link in the video description below. Hi there guys, welcome to the latest episode of the Cryptoverse, your regular dose of news and commentary on Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies and blockchains. I'm your host, Chris Coney, the founder of Cryptoversity, the online school where you can learn about Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies and blockchains. Find out more at cryptoversity.com. So you've tuned into the news and commentary show of the Cryptoverse. So let's get right into it with a Segwit update. We go to Coindance for the latest data. Here it is, Coindance. Right now we are just 2 hours away from starting a new Segwit lock-in period, which means we could be just 28 days away from Segwit transactions actually start happening on the Bitcoin network. Now that BIP91 is active, any blocks that don't signal for Segwit will be rejected, so the chances of Segwit activating, or rather locking in then activating, locking in during the next period are, shall we say, pretty high, right? If not guaranteed. But as we've seen with the Bitcoin Cash situation, nothing is done until it's done, so I'm personally going to reserve judgment and stick to the data. That reminds me actually, I don't know if you saw me retweet this photo from the breakfast meeting I had on Sunday morning, but Tahir said during the meeting, he said something that made me smile. He said, quote, "I believe in God. For everything else, I need data," close quote. Now, I'd never heard that before, and I appreciate everyone having their own unique philosophy on life, as long as it doesn't violate the non-aggression principle, so I appreciate him sharing that with me. So that's the Segwit update for today. So let's get into the actual main story. It's about breaking open the MtGox case, a breakthrough. Now I'm going to draw from this Japanese source, WizSec. Okay, so I personally have never heard of these guys, but several prominent developers and people in the Bitcoin industry have pointed me to this source, and the CoinDesk has pointed to it, and lots of other people have pointed to it. So these guys are inheriting trust from the likes of Anders Nilsson, Andreas Antonopoulos, and so on. So just to set that pretext there. So anyway, so today, the 27th of July, a Russian national was arrested in Greece and has been identified as Alexander Vinnik, a 38-year-old man who is said to have been running a Bitcoin-based money laundering operation since 2011 that has processed in the region of, wait for it, $4 billion. That is billion with a B. And I'll bring the article back up on the screen. It is billion with a B. $4 billion has said to have been trafficked through the operation since 2011. That is exactly what the WizSec article says. That's a lot of money. So money laundering, by definition, is turning dirty money into clean money. Now, money can be deemed to be dirty if it came from some kind of criminal enterprise, right? And in this case, we are talking about stealing funds from the famous Japanese Bitcoin exchange, MtGox, that collapsed in February of 2014, right? Now, the way that you clean money is to somehow exchange the dirty money for another asset, thereby laundering or handing the dirty money over to someone else. So if this guy laundered $4 billion over the course of, say, 6 years or so, he would have had to buy like a lot of houses or cars, jewelry, etc. in order to process all that money. And that's generally why, say, if someone average does a random purchase of a Rolls Royce, that might attract the attention of law enforcement because they'll be asking, where did you suddenly get all that money from, right? They may suspect you of money laundering. Now, I've highlighted a very interesting part of this article here in red. It says, quote, in September of 2011, the MtGox hot wallet private keys were stolen in a case of a simple copied file, which is wallet.dat. Now, this gave the attacker access to a sizable number of bitcoins immediately, but also were able to spend the incoming trickle of bitcoins deposited to any address that were contained. So it says here that the MtGox hot wallet private keys were stolen by copying the wallet.dat file, which is where the Bitcoin core wallet stores private keys. Now, that must mean to me that MtGox didn't encrypt the wallet with a password. Big mistake, right? If they had, then simply copying the wallet.dat file wouldn't have really done you any good because that wallet would be encrypted and you'd need the password as well. So it would have had to have been an inside job, right? Or someone would have had to get the password somehow. So that is a really basic error right there. So once this guy had, say, transferred a batch of bitcoins out of MtGox and into his own wallet, most of the money was then moved to the exchange BTC-E, which we are assuming is where he sold off the coins. Now, apparently, MtGox wasn't the only exchange that he stole from. They actually say here again in the article, I've highlighted it in orange. It says, quote, the stolen MtGox coins were not the only stolen coins handled by Vinnik. Coins stolen were from Bitcoinica, Bitfloor, and several other thefts from back in 2011 and 2012, where all laundered through the same wallets. So MtGox funds, Bitcoinica, and Bitfloor funds were all laundered through the same wallets. So that's how come they've implicated this guy in the same batch of thefts. Now, one of the mistakes that this guy made was to move some of the stolen funds back into the MtGox exchange and into an account that was linked to his identity. So by following the flow of bitcoins on the public blockchain, the path of money can be tracked step by step. And actually, WizSec offer a simple illustration of the coin flow in an image on the page here. You see this heading says coin flow, and then you can take a look at this image right here, and it shows where the money came from, what wallets they went through, and all that kind of thing. So they've done some cluster analysis on all the addresses involved in order to see where the funds were moving, right? Now, where the BTC-E exchange is really implicated in this whole thing is where they publicly vouched for this guy as being legit. Well, they actually didn't say he was legit. This Alexander guy went by an online name WME, and he would often advertise on, say, the Bitcoin Talk forum, offering to sell cheap Bitcoins, right? Which is obviously the dirty money that he stole and wanted to sell off and clean. The BTC exchange actually publicly vouched for him, saying, quote, we know WME very well, close quote. And right now, if I visit the BTC exchange website, this is what it looks like. It's down for maintenance. Seems like a bit of a coincidence if you ask me. But then again, it could have something to do with this article from the CoinDesk. Could have something to do with the fact that FinCEN, which is the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, have levied a $110 million civil penalty against BTC-E for violations allegedly committed by them during this whole money laundering operation. And one thing in particular that BTC-E have been charged with is, scrolling down to the purple bit, from the article from CoinDesk, it says, quote, 1 count of operating an unlawful money services business. Uh-oh. That doesn't bode well for centralized exchanges at all. To me, that looks like a precedent has been set and means that all Bitcoin exchanges could now reasonably be deemed, quote, unlawful money services businesses. So do me a favor, will you? Please post links to your favorite decentralized exchanges in the comments of today's video, because we need to spread awareness of these now more than ever. So I'll start. My suggestions are BISQ, BISQ, Ether Delta, the Waves platform, and of course, BitShares. So please contribute to that. Let's crowdsource the knowledge here. Let me know what decentralized exchanges you are aware of. Post them in the comments so everybody can see them. But anyway, back to WizSec to close this off. They do say that this is only part 1 of the series that they will be publishing, in which they will share all the investigative work that they have been doing, and that they haven't been able to talk about until now. So do me a favor, will you? Go to their page, scroll to the very bottom, and send them a Bitcoin tip. Because they've undertook all this investigative work on an entirely voluntary basis. And to me, this is a great example of decentralized law enforcement, if we can call it that. Alright guys, thanks very much for joining me today, guys. If you like this episode, go ahead and hit that like button. And if you're new to the channel, get subscribed. And if you want access to my structured online courses, check out Cryptoversity.com. Right, that's all for today, guys. I'll be back tomorrow with another edition of the Cryptoverse Market Roundup and another edition of this news and commentary show. So until then, it's me, Chris Coney, saying bye for now.